Hey folks, Andrew Bailie here with another tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be all about chord qualities. I'm going to be talking about what they are and how they work and strategies to practice them both as chords and as arpeggios. A couple things you should know before we get started here. You should know your notes everywhere on the guitar neck. And I know that's a daunting prospect for a lot of people, but we can break it down and make it very easy. Things you should know. There are two sets of notes that are always right next to each other. Those notes are E and F, and also B and C. And you want to know that everything else, all of the other natural notes, have a sharper flat in between them. So they're always going to be a whole step away, except for B and C, E and F. Okay, so I can practice my notes up each string, just pretending that each string lives in isolation here. So I've got E, F is always next to E, then I've got G is 2 frets away, A is again a whole step away, B is a whole step away, C is next to B, so on and so forth. You can practice them up and down, say and play your notes, learn them everywhere on your neck. That's going to be important. Now, the next thing I want to know is that when I talk about a scale, let's talk about the C major scale because it has no sharps, no flats in it. I'm going to also be able to number those notes, okay? And it's just the order that they fall in. So C is first, then I have D, E, F, G, A, B, and then I'm back to C, okay? So when I talk about 1, 3, 5, I'm really talking about C, E, G. It's just the number, the order that they fall in. So you want to just know that basic knowledge. It's the same thing as saying do, re, mi, using solfege, but in this case, we're using numbers. Okay, so let's get started talking about chord qualities. What is a chord quality? Chord quality is describing the chord, okay? Is it major? Is it minor? Is it a major 7? You know, these type of distinctions that we make, that's what we mean, okay? So we want to get outside of, okay, play a C chord. Well, I know that's C because I know this shape with my fingers, but why is it C? It's C because it has 3 notes in it. And this is an example of what we'll call a triad. And those are the easiest ones that we can think about. There are several different types of triads. The first one that we'll talk about is major, okay? Any major chord that you play, that's typically going to be a major triad. Now, a major triad is made of the first note of the scale, the third note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale, okay? So, if I go C, E, G, I'm playing a major triad, right? If I add another C, another E, doesn't matter how many different tones are in that chord, if all of the notes are just C, E, and G, I'm playing a C major triad. To make a major triad minor, I'm gonna flat the 3rd. Really, we'll say flat the 3rd. Sometimes you'll just need to lower it because sometimes you'll be in a key where the 3rd note of the scale is already sharped. In that case, you just lower it to a natural note and it does the same thing. So C minor would then be C, E flat, G, or 1 flat 3, 5. I'll play it here, C, E flat, G. All right, any combination of C, E flat, G anywhere on the neck makes C minor, okay? Then I get something called diminished, which is where I take that minor triad and I flat the 5. So I have C, E flat, G flat, and that sounds like this. All right. Then I'm dealing with something called augmented, which I'm going to go back to a major 3rd. I'm going to go C, E, E natural, and then G sharp on top, which sounds like this. C, E, G sharp. Okay. Then the other ones that I have, as far as triads, I can deal with, they're called suspended, okay? So a suspended triad, they're gonna come in two varieties. I'm gonna have sus2, which is when I replace the 3rd note with the 2nd note. And that's gonna be like this, C, D, G, okay? 1, 2, 5. Again, anywhere on the neck. Then I can replace the 3rd note with the 4th note, and that's called suspended 4 or sus4. I'm sure most of you have seen that in guitar language. If you didn't know what that was, this is what it is. Sus4 is 1, 4, 5. Okay. Easy way to remember sus4 and its resolution, because this chord does want to resolve down to the major chord, okay? It wants to go 4, 3. That's like that amen sound, okay? That's always what that's gonna be. All right, so those are our triads, and we can get comfortable playing them in all of our keys, or we can be playing a song and just recognize that's how those chords are made up. Now, when we add a fourth note, typically we're going to be talking about something called seventh chords. Why are they called seventh chords? Because they're typically any one of those major triads with the seventh note of the scale in there somehow. So if I start with a major triad and I put the 7 just as it falls in the scale, so in the key of C, I would have C, E, G, my major triad, and then I've got the 7th note, which is B, I put that on top. That's something called C major 7. Okay, I've got C, E, G, B, and that makes C major 7. Now I can play that anywhere, okay? Here's C major 7, here's C major 7, here's C major 7, here's C major 7, I've got it here. I did cover this in my Drop 2 voicings episode, so you can check out all the different voicings of C major 7 as examples in that tutorial. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm taking those 4 notes, and any way that I arrange them, it still makes C major 7. C major 7 is the chord quality. Okay, then I can have something called dominant. All right, and dominant happens when I flat the 7, but I've still got that major triad underneath. So I've got C, E, G, and then B flat, or 1, 3, 5, flat 7, and that's going to sound like this. Okay, it's got that bluesy sound to it. We do call it dominant, but if somebody just says play a C7, they mean play a dominant chord. Okay, play C dominant. Okay. So then we'll flat the 3rd. When we do that, we get minor 7. You might have known that this was a C minor 7. But if you didn't know why, now you know why. I've got a C here, there's a G, that's the 5th. There's a B flat, that's a flat 7. And then I've got my minor 3rd on top with E flat. Kind of a fun voicing. I can try stretching. This is kind of fun. I've got C, E flat, G, B flat. That's a root position, like piano voicing. They get tough on guitar, you got to stretch out for them, but you can find some cool ways to play that. Also, I want to recognize that the top half of if I leave the low note out of that and I play this structure here, I just get like an E flat triad, E flat major triad. I put a C underneath it, and all of a sudden I get C minor 7. So that you'll discover things like that as you go through, and we don't need to explain all of that right now, but just be aware this stuff gets convoluted. So you start practicing it, you see it a bunch of different ways, and that's good. That's good. That's what you want to do. Okay. Then we can flat the 5 when we're talking about a C minor 7, and we'll have something called C minor 7 flat 5. We can also approach this from one other angle. So remember when we talked about triads, a diminished triad was 1, flat 3, flat 5. Well, if I put a flat 7 on top of that 1, flat 3, flat 5, I might describe it as a half diminished chord. Half diminished and minor 7 flat 5 are interchangeable terms. So if you hear one or the other, you know that it's a chord that's built with a C, C on the bottom, E flat, G flat, and then B flat, or, and that's in the key of C, of course, or 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. Here's a very common voicing for that. And this one I have 1, flat 5, flat 7, flat 3, C, G flat, B flat, E flat. Okay, then I'm gonna go one more. The next chord quality is fully diminished, and that's when I take my 7th note of the scale and I lower it once more, and I call it a double flat 7. It's not a 6, it's a double flat 7. So here's a voicing for that. There's fully diminished, and this is cool because every 3 half steps, it inverts and actually is the same notes. Okay, so There are only 3 of these chords. This is C diminished. It's also E flat diminished. It's also G flat diminished. It's also A diminished. Okay, and each diminished chord kind of works like that. Then we'll have something called, we'll just use a sus, okay, a sus triad, usually a sus 4, and we'll put a flat 7 on top of it, and we'll have a 7 sus chord, okay, and that can work like that or something similar, basically where I just have 1, 4, it'd be 1, 4, 5, flat 7. Okay. So how should we practice these? What's going on there? Well, I want to be able to play each of these chord qualities in terms of actually being able to play the chord. So you can figure that out. You can figure out different voicings for that using this information, but you can also play each of the notes separately that make up the chord. Okay, in other words, chord tones, playing them separately, we could also call that arpeggios. Okay, so if I'm playing, I go back to my just regular major triad, okay, I could start on C, and I can use the circle of fifths. I can go counterclockwise around it, and that's a good exercise to really get these down. So I'll play the chord. Notice I've played a series of notes that sounds like that chord quality, and that's because I'm only playing the notes within that chord. So I'm playing C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, and back down. I number them 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1. There we go. Then I play that chord again, I go to F. Next key is B flat. Then to E flat, so on and so forth. I can do that for my minor arpeggio. Here it is in C. Then I have my diminished arpeggio. Okay, then this is a triad now. So I just play 1, flat 3, flat 5, 1, flat 3, flat 5, 1. I have to skip the B string unless I do this. Excuse me. Augmented triad, again, major third, sharp the 5. You see that in the key of C there. Now I'll go to my 7th chords, okay? Major triad, add the major 7. Notice I included the 7 below the root because I can get there. That's totally fine. That's my major 7, and again around the circle of fifths, minor 7. Okay, I've got the flat 3, I've got the flat 7. I did skip over the dominant 7 chord, so I'll do that now. I've got 1 major 3, 5, flat 7, 1. Okay, and again I extrapolate that over 2 octaves, and then I can go to the next key, minor 7 flat 5. There's another good voicing for it. I played it over here before. I can play it on the root with the root on the low E string. I get 1 flat 5 flat 7 flat 3. You see I have a regular minor 7 chord like this. Just flat the 5. Okay. Then I'll play the arpeggio. I have 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, 1. I can put the flat 3 on top. There it is. It's got kind of a different sound. And again, once I put that around the circle of fifths, I'm going to know it really well. The whole point of this is muscle memory. So whether you're learning a pop tune, a rock tune, a jazz tune, whatever kind of song, country song, whatever kind of song you're learning or writing, you know not only all of these chord qualities, so if you hear one in your head, you can just grab it and play it, but you also know the notes separately, and that helps in a solo. So For instance, if I'm playing a dominant 7th chord, I happen to know I could use a bunch of stuff over that. I could play a pentatonic, I could do a lot of things, but if I know where those chord tones are, if I know my arpeggio, it's another tool at my disposal. I can play a lot of notes around it. But notice I played like this blues lick here, but at the end I went chromatically into the major 3rd and then went right to the root. Now, I just know where that is because I know my arpeggio really well, and I can see those chord tones and I can approach things. Okay, so again, not all of those notes are chord tones, not all of them are in the scale, but if I know where my chord tones are and I can play these arpeggios and it's automatic, I can then start approaching them, using them as target tones, that kind of thing. So anyway, this is a really good strategy to help not only understand how chords work, but also to help your soloing, to be able to play the right notes over the right changes, to kind of differentiate between that. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, practice your chord qualities, know your notes, know that when we talk about numbers, we're just talking about the notes in the scale and what order they fall in. And happy practicing. I'll see you next time. Hope you're well.